Hello, my name is Todd Starnes, and I'm one of the owners of Bicycle Adventures. And today we're recording the first episode of Todd Talks. And this is going to be hopefully something we try and do monthly, where I talk about one of my favorite tours, or I have somebody on our staff talk about one of their favorite trips. Today I want to talk about a trip that I call Disneyland on a Bike, and that's our Mount Rushmore and Badlands tour in South Dakota. It is almost hard to describe just because the variety of this trip, whether it's the Badlands or cruising through any one of the national parks. You're going through Badlands National Park, or you get to go also out to Devil's Tower to Wyoming and see the national parks there. And you experience up close in person some of the most beautiful scenery, and also some of the most beautiful wildlife. In Custer State Park, we were able to ride through a herd of buffalo, and unlike maybe traveling in Yellowstone where you've got thousands of cars and thousands of people, you're actually pretty secluded with that herd of buffalo. So you feel like you're kind of taken back in time, and it looks just the way it did 150 years ago when the buffalo sort of roamed the prairies. So it's a great place to be. It's one of my favorite trips. And if you head out there in the spring, you get to see the buffalo's calves, which they're sort of a bright orange color, which is really neat to see, as well as the flowers blooming and the other wildlife with their offspring. One of the things that's really great about this trip is this road called the Iron Mountain Road. And the Iron Mountain Road is 17 miles with 314 curves, 14 switchbacks, 3 pigtails, and 3 tunnels. And you'd think, well, what's such a big deal about that? Well, the 3 tunnels were designed by an engineer by the name of Norbeck, and each one of the tunnels is designed so that it frames Mount Rushmore. So as you're riding through the tunnel, you're seeing Mount Rushmore off in the distance ahead of you. So it's just one of the many things that when you go to South Dakota, you experience great wildlife, great scenery, great vistas, but you also get to see the history of the West, and that's going to Deadwood and Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane, and the history of the West in terms of the First Nations or Native Americans, because we go to Crazy Horse, which I think is one of the greatest Native American museums that you'll ever get to see, or ever get a chance to experience. Most of our guests will spend as many as 3 hours at that one museum. So it's a wonderful trip. It's one thing that most people respond to when they come back from that trip is they never really expected it to have such diversity, and to be and for the riding to be as spectacular as it is. And several of our guests have actually gone back and done this trip 2 or 3 times because they enjoy it so much. So please come out and enjoy that trip with us. We think that we probably guide it better than anyone else because, well, I'm from South Dakota. I grew up there, and we actually spent most of my summers out there in the Black Hills in South Dakota. So I'd love for you to sort of come home with me to South Dakota and go on this tour. And that ends it for episode number 1.